Hey, it's Drybear. We're continuing our series of covering all of the weapons in the First Descendant, and today we're going to talk about the hand-canned Nazeistra's Devotion, which just got a almost unethical buff in today's patch. They give it a massive crit chance increase up to 45% base, and a massive crit damage increase up to 225% crit damage at base, or 2.25. This weapon is actually ridiculously insane now, and I'm going to give you two builds to run. The first build is going to be the basic build. This is a build that doesn't rely on you being perfectly accurate on weak spots all the time. This is going to be your basic build, which still outperforms almost every other weapon we've done so far. And then I'll give you the prime build, just like we did with the Python, where if you can manage to be at least like 65-70% accurate on weak points most of the time, the damage on this weapon is actually bonkers now. So we'll start with the first build, the basic build, and of course these sheets are down below in the comments and in the description if you're looking for a reference. The overall simulated DPS for this weapon now after the buffs is 890,000, which puts it above almost every other weapon we've done so far. And this is just the crit focused, high uptime focused build that doesn't require you to have insane weak point accuracy. This is the basic build here. This one we're gonna run with real life fighter, action reaction, rifling reinforcement, and we do want to focus on the crit, which means we're gonna run target detection, better insight, and better concentration to help scale up that massive crit chance, crit damage that we have with weapon. Then, because we're not focusing heavily on weak point, we're gonna get fire rate up, recycling genius, and reload focus, plus the elemental enhancement versus weakness. And you'll notice on the left side of the screen, over here on the left side, I have the weightings for all the modules in the game that you can put on your weapon. So say you didn't want to run action or reaction, your next best option for the ATK category is going to be slow art, and then antimatter round, and then moving further down. So these are going to be your main focus for building that. You still get an insane value out of the elemental enhancement mod simply because they scale off of firearm attack, unlike every other elemental in the entire game. They're just insanely good. Then again, we're going to focus on crit chance, crit damage, fire rate, and maximizing those, and then we put a little bit of reload time at the very end because it's our next best stat once we've exhausted everything else in the game. What's cool about these weapons now is if you run in with them, they also have this new setting. So if before, when you held down like hand cannons for impact rounds and also tactical rifles, if you held down the button, it would shoot once because it's semi-automatic. And then if you held it down, it would do nothing. There was no continuous fire option. They added an option in the settings, so if you go escape into options here, you'll be able to go over to gameplay and scroll all the way down to the bottom where you'll find change fire mode off or on. If you set this to on, it means that if you hold down the button while firing, even though it's a semi-automatic weapon, it will constantly fire and keep shooting over and over, which is pretty cool. I think that's awesome. It makes it more of a feel-good option for people. Like if you just want to hammer at something and you don't really want to stop and aim every shot and have to click every time or use your trigger every time, it makes it a lot easier. One of the downsides with this, I was hoping that this change here would actually allow the tactical rifles and the hand cannons to use sharp precision shot, which is a module that gives you more and more firearm attack and fire rate as you hold down the button. Just because the setting is there that allows you to have continuous fire, it isn't actually continuous fire, which means that it still doesn't trigger sharp precision shot. So you'll notice on the sheets here, I don't have sharp precision shot weighted. Even for this Nazeistra's Devotion, it's only going to be about 40 to 41% weighting. It's still not better than real life fighter, but it is better than mental focus and elemental conductor. So if for some reason in the future they change it so that the impact round hand cannons can fire continuously and stack sharp precision shot, it would be an okay alternative to real life fighter, but real life fighter is still going to be your best bet in this case. So this is the basic build for Nazeistra's Devotion, and it doesn't really have as much accuracy reliance on actually building up weak point for that reason. But we know, as we saw with the Python, that when we run it with focusing on actually being very tight with your shots. So if you can actually just get your shots down to be very accurate and you can hit the weak point over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, if you can be really consistent with that, around 70% accuracy is the break point, just like with the Python. If you can hit out of 10 shots, every 7 shots is on the weak point, your damage goes up to the moon. And so the overall value for this is now going to be Nazeistra's Devotion Prime build. This one is going to be the best Nazeistra's Devotion build that you can for damage output. Again, if you want to swap in feel-good mods, like adding in like recoil reduction, accuracy increase, you can certainly do that. Just like look for the lower ones down on this list and use those to make the weapon more comfortable for you. And again, as long as you grab from the bottom of the list, you'll be losing the least amount of DPS for that. But again, if you're playing all day long or you're playing for a long session, the comfort level is going to be really important. But you'll notice that we dropped off rounds and reloads. So look at the difference in weighting here. The weighting has gone way down for rounds and reload. Weak point has come up and crit damage has still gone up as well. And we still want elemental damage from firearm attack, but now we favor a lot more weak point in this because we're going to be consistently hitting that weak point. So we're still going to run real life fighter, action and reaction, rifling reinforcement, better concentration, target detection, and better insight. This gives us our huge upgrade in firearm attack, one of our global scalars for every weapon in the game. It's one of the best stats you can get. Firearm attack is peak. It affects everything that you do, so you always want to increase that. Then we want our double crit damage and 1 crit chance buff. There aren't really any good purple crit chance increase mods because they all come with some negative effect that's massive. So better insight is all we need for this build for it to be optimal. Fire rate up, and then for our last two before the elemental, we want have aiming and weak point sight. And when you max all these out, it is ridiculous the damage this weapon can do. I don't know why they buffed it so hard. It was already pretty good to begin with, but now it is easily one of the best boss killing weapons in the entire game, as long as you can be accurate. And if you can't be perfectly accurate with the weapon and you go with the general crit damage, like crit focus build with reload, you're still going to do insane, ridiculous damage, just not quite as much as the prime build here. So this weapon is so strong, so good, it kind of puts everything else to shame. A couple things to note about this list here. You'll notice that there are like dopaminergic activate, special sight, weak point expansion down here at the bottom, right? They don't stack up to even mental focus is like twice as good as these, which is super unfortunate. And the biggest downside with weak point expansion, special sight, and dopaminergic activate is because they have low uptime. They have a cooldown internal to the module, and if you're using this as a primary weapon, like if you're firing more than a single magazine, all of those mods lose value significantly. They become very, very, very low value when compared to even mental focus, elemental conductor, and real life fighter. But there is an alternate build if you wanted to run it where you could run these offhands as sidearms, right? You're like, maybe you're using your main weapon as a general round or something else, and you just want to pop over to Nazeistra's for a single magazine. Then the value of dopaminergic activate, special sight, and weak point expansion come up. And especially if you're only using it for one magazine, they tend to outdo real life fighter because you're not going to be firing for long enough to stack up real life fighter. So you get a lot of value from those low uptime mods in that case. But again, if you're going to use more than one magazine on Nazeistra's, which you should with how insane it is now, then you're going to get much more value out of these other special mods at the top of the list. And what's cool about all the handguns is they don't really have a crazy recoil pattern. This one just goes up and to the right at a very steady pace. It is very easy to react to, very easy to avoid, and this is with action reaction equipped, so very easy. Just go straight up to the left, to top, to the up and to the right. Very straightforward, very easy. The accuracy on it is pretty decent. Now again, this is also with the mod to lower accuracy, so if you wanted to run like Hawkeye or something like that, you certainly could and make it a little bit easier for you. You're just going to lose out on some of your DPS, so if you can still be pretty accurate on weak point while not having to run Hawkeye or any of those like accuracy, insight kind of mods, then you'll get plenty of really good damage out of it on that front as well. Now, if we look at the passive, this is going to be kind of a footnote like it was for the Python, and that's mainly because a lot of the down debuffs in the game right now are just not scaling well. So crit resistance down, as well as resistance, like elemental resistance down for Python, crit resistance down, defense down, like with Nazeistra's, they don't scale all that well. I don't know if it's only a portion of the stat is being applied to the enemies. It does seem to do a little bit more to Colossi that will have overall more defense, but even then, it's not like 10% defense down is giving you 10% more damage. It's more like giving you like 0.5% or 1%, which is not nothing, which means that when you max out Nazeistra's Devotion, this goes to minus 30% defense. That's going to give you like a good 6% damage increase. Again, not nothing. And if you're going for weak point anyways, you're going to get a good value out of that. And you can, if you want to, shoot your friends and get some, give them some shield recovery, even though shield isn't very good as a stat right now in the game. You can certainly do that, and you get a little bit of damage off that passive there. But just like the Python, it's just an insane weapon all by itself, and now it's super strong because they buffed it for some reason. So go out there, get your Nazeistra's Devotion, and start pumping, because boy is this gun strong. Let me know what we should cover next in the next video down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.